Welcome back to the Student Hub Live. In this session for the Faculty of STEM, as part of our reorientation event for new students, we're going to take a look at what I wish students knew before started studying from an academic perspective. So I've got a range of academics from the school here. Now I'm briefly going to explain what you all do, but we've been talking about how there's so many acronyms and job titles and things we don't really fully understand. I don't think we fully understand a lot of them anyway. But broadly speaking, Nick, you're our sort of Executive Dean, so you're overseeing lots of stuff at the moment, and you've also been involved with the Open STEM Labs, as we've just seen, and you're going to show us some things as well. Jan, you've been looking at designing learning materials and stuff, so you're going to sort of bring that perspective to it also. And you're in the School of Engineering and Innovation, and Nick's doing physics, and then Fee, you're a staff tutor and also associate lecturer, and you're in the School of Life, Health and Chemical Sciences. We're not going to talk about all of that. We're going to sort of share advice about what students should know as they're starting their modules and what the sort of things that you guys are designing for students that you're hoping that they're going to pick up. So Jan, I'd like to talk to you first about the materials and stuff. We've taken a look at that study planner. We've seen some of the stuff that's in there. Can you reassure students about how things are designed in a way that is going to introduce them nice and gently?
Yes, the introductory modules in any qualification will contain a great deal of stuff about learning how to learn, study skills, introductory stuff about where resources are to be found, how to use the website, how to make best use of the resources that are available and your time. So yes, that's how we start off. We then thinking about throughout the qualification, modules are graded in the challenge that they offer to students. So we think very carefully about ensuring that students develop their skills in an orderly and smooth way without great jumps or without repeating material as much as possible.
And to accompany that challenge of increasing complexity are increasingly more marks.
Yes, or well, if you think about the degree classification, which is obviously a long way down the road, the first stage modules don't count at all towards that classification. All you have to do is pass them in order to accumulate the number of credit points that you need. And then at stage 2, which will be for a student studying at half-time rate, that'll be years 3 and 4. The credits, the marks that you obtain in the overall assessment do count, but not as much as they do at the final stage, stage 3, where they are more heavily weighted.
So it's a great opportunity to really make loads and loads of mistakes early on and think about your learning styles and how you learn and reflect on those. So what advice would you give to those students then about reflecting on their learning so that when the marks do really matter for that classification, they've got all those skills in the bag?
Yes, well, actually, one of the things I'm going to speak from the experience of my engineering qualifications. One of the things that we have there that follows the student throughout the qualification is the learning log, which is it's a web-based tool that students can add to with not just the materials that they found of interest, but also their thoughts about their learning as they continue through. And those ideas change; they will develop as they get through their qualification. And in fact, I think as you look back, it's a great way of realising how far you've come, how much you've developed. And in fact, we use those learning logs. Sometimes we use them in the assessment materials where so that students, we try and make sure that those are actually useful to the student, and it's modelling a way of behaving for life, actually. So for career development, quite often, usually, you will need to develop a portfolio of evidence. If you want to apply for another job, there's always something in the CV or something in the job spec. There'll normally be a specification of what skills you're supposed to be able to have. A learning log like this, where you can record evidence of where you've achieved those skills, is a great resource to have further on in your career. when you want to answer the questions on an application form, yes, I can do this, and I can prove I can do that because I did
That's a
this.
brilliant idea. And not only is it great to have from a professional aspect, but also it must make you feel really good as a student. You know, so often we think we're learning knowledge, but we forget that we're learning key skills. And if we can then demonstrate those and have a list of them, we can see how that knowledge is accumulating.
Yes, indeed. In fact, I think content is of secondary importance to skills, and what a student does when they're doing any degree is actually learning how to learn. And it's so a given piece of content, it actually doesn't matter if you've, to some extent at least, it doesn't matter whether you've acquired that during your degree or not. If you're able to acquire it later, that's great. It's just stuff that you need to know and you need to be able to work with.
Okay. Now, Nick, you've been involved with lots of modules, and from a module team perspective, which I guess is something like, you know, one of the specific modules, like we've had a lot of S111 students here. So the module is often a 9-month course, and students will be expected to start now at week 1 and do certain things, and we've taken a look at that study planner. But modules are carefully designed, as Jan has explained. So what do module teams want students to do first?
Get familiar with the resources,
Yeah.
use those websites to get in, marry the timetable up with your own domestic calendar. That can be really important, and actually just doing that is a good exercise because it puts you in the zone. Look for the assignment dates. It's a journey that you're embarking upon, and when you do go on journeys, sometimes you plan the route and you think where you're going to stop at certain points, and maybe there are certain points that you have to call at and do something before you can move to the next bit. It's very much like that. So the same kind of planning. We hope that people do that using the resources, beginning to use the resources so that they get a feel for them. And it might mean that you skim very quickly and have a look ahead, see what's going to be coming up. And you don't have to worry about it now, you just know it's going to be there and it gives you something to aim at.
We've heard about tutorials and assessments. Are those dates important for students to log?
Yes, absolutely. Those are the fixed points. We have to synchronise to a degree. We're pretty good compared with conventional classroom teaching, where 9 o'clock is when the lecture is. We're a lot freer than that.
Yeah.
But the assessment points we need to get together.
Particularly that end one.
Particularly the end one, an end of module assessment, but also some of the formation, because well, the tutors themselves have got to know when the work's coming.
Yeah.
They've got to schedule it.
Yeah.
And we've got to maintain the standard, make sure everybody's together at certain points, but not every hour of every day.
Okay, brilliant. Now, Jan, the modules are sort of really carefully planned. Now, students don't need to know all that detail about how they're planned, because I know you've got various tools that you use to sort of scaffold them in such a way that students are generally building things up. But for our new students out there, what can you tell them about how those qualifications and modules are structured?
Well, as I alluded to earlier, we are trying to build skills in an orderly and progressive way. So that's our overall focus when we're creating a new module. It might be replacing one that's already got a position in the qualification, or it might be creating a new one, perhaps for a new pathway within the qualification. We're looking not just at what's within the module, but making sure that it has its proper place within the qualification, that we're not making assumptions that we have no right to make, and that we're going at the right speed. There's the content, of course, and different academics will have different enthusiasms and different areas of expertise. So sometimes that will play a role in what goes into the module. But we're also looking, again, I'm talking from the point of view of engineering. Our degrees are accredited by various engineering institutions, and there are learning outcomes there that we must achieve. Students must be able to show that they have achieved all these learning outcomes. So that's also something that we map with all the modules. So we've got a view across the entire qualification about what learning outcomes are addressed, and it's not all within one module. So you might approach a learning outcome many times throughout the qualification, but each time you revisit it, it will be from a slightly different angle, at a slightly different level. So there's teaching of the outcome, development of the students' abilities, skills in that area, and then finally there's somewhere in one or more modules there will be assessment of it as well. So it's the whole thing is integrated.
So I met two students earlier, Emma and Mark, and one of the things Emma was saying that she wished that she knew when she was a new student was about how hard it would be in terms of the workload. And she was talking specifically about the number of hours in the week and how she struggled to sort of fit some of that in and recognise that, you know, however many hours meant however many hours. Some weeks are heavier and lighter than others as well in terms of the workload. How does that work in terms of then the module design?
Yes, that one of the things that we do when we're thinking about a new module is we hold a learning design workshop, and that's where everybody that's going to be involved with the writing and the production and the design and the delivery of that module is in one room at the same time, and we have a number of things that we go through. And one
like
of those,
Christmas as a time to have a week and eat cake.
Yeah, indeed, and one of those is looking at student workload. We recognise that we should not be trying to create large differences from one week to another. So we smooth those out as much as possible. One of the things that we've been working on in our qualifications in particular is there is a tendency towards a submission deadline for a tutor-marked assignment tends to be a bit peaky if you look at what's happening. We've got various ways of measuring what students are doing. If you look at student activity towards a deadline like that, it does peak a little bit. So what we have been trying to do is to make it possible for the student to spread their workload over a longer period of time building up to that deadline. So we will say, for example, in week 3, what you've learned so far and what you can do now should enable you to tackle question 1 of the TMA. And so students can do that and have that out of the way. So we try as much as we can to smooth things out. And that's particularly important where students are studying more than one module at the same time, because the timing of these TMA deadlines is usually fairly closely linked to when the module starts. And when most modules start in the same month, there is a tendency for TMA deadlines to fall close to one another. So it's particularly important, I think, to spread that workload as far as possible.
But they're not a secret. They're published in advance. They're known about now, so
Indeed.
You have to engage with that timing.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's really important. Let's take a quick trip to HA and hello, Liz.
Hi.
How's everyone at home?
Good. We're just chatting away. We've been chatting about stargazing a little bit for a while. So we've been
Specifically Welsh.
Yes, yeah.
That's it, absolutely. Best place in the world, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not that I'm biased.
Obviously not.
It's apparently very good, dark skies.
That's
so, yeah.
it. But we got a few great questions that we wanted to put to our guests.
Lovely.
One question came from Amy earlier, said that it seems like the student support teams are subject specific. I'm doing one module in STEM and one in business and law. How will this work, and who do I go to if I need help in this?
Well, I'm surprised Liz hasn't answered that.
I arrived on the scene. I mean, what I would say is on the student home, when it says go to your student support team, quite a lot of the time it'll depend what qualification you're on as to where it'll take you. So say you're on a BSc combined STEM, you might be a science student, but you might have some business in there. I would say just whack something over to us. We'll always get it to the right place. So if it does need to go to a different team, we can make that referral and we can make it happen.
Oh,
yeah,
fantastic.
and obviously us being student support
Yes,
services,
us being
because Liz
student
has joined
support.
us
Apologies
from,
for anyone who's
lovely
just
team.
joined.
And Hayley says, do our guests have any tips on overcoming fear of maths and mental blocks from bad experience with mathematics?
Or some traumatised students. Maybe you'd like to take that fee.
Talk to your tutor, and they'll help you. There are lots of resources out there, but your tutor will be able to help you find the ones that are right for you and give you lots of encouragement. The main thing is don't let it stop you. I mean, many people come to study with bad stories in their past.
Yeah,
You know, they've
yeah.
had a bad experience at
And
school,
very often
maybe.
study the second time isn't the same as the first.
Exactly. So I think just be open-minded, you know, talk to your tutor.
Brilliant.
And you can succeed.
Now, we've met some lovely tutors beforehand. They were very, very different. But from an academic perspective then, what would you tell our students about using their tutor as part of their learning?
So when it comes to academic content on your module, your tutor is absolutely your first point of call. In fact, the only really, when it comes to academic stuff on your module, contact your tutor. And they'll be able to, you know, give you a bit of support if it's a specific aspect you're struggling with. They can also talk to you about maybe a bit of time management, direct you to lots of special study skills resources that could help. So your tutor is absolutely fab. If it's maybe something that's affecting you on several modules, then it might be well worth contacting your student support team, because they'll be able to give a more kind of holistic, joined up kind of perspective about your support.
Yeah. Now, Liz was talking about some of the fact that the SSTs are subject or qualification specific. You liaise with the student support team to give them specific pieces of information that they may then find useful in terms of communicating with students.
Yes, absolutely. So I mentioned sort of joint up holistic support, and I think it's so important that there's communication between all the different aspects that affect a student, so the module teams, the tutors, student support teams, the students kind of in the middle of all this. So it's really important that the student support team advisors know what's happening from an academic point of view. So perhaps the assessment strategy for a module might be changing next year, and they need to know about that. Maybe there's a module's being rewritten. So I would be the person who would be communicating about academic aspects of the modules within.
And it's a two-way process, because not only will you be talking to the student support team, but if they're getting loads of calls, say when this new assessment strategy comes into being, that there are lots of problems with something, they'll feed that back to you. So it's really important that students speak to their tutor and the student support team so that this joined up thinking can happen.
Yeah, so we need to listen. It's really important for us to listen to our students. So one of the ways that can happen is when the calls or the emails come into the student support team advisors, I can hear about that and pass that to our faculty colleagues, who can, you know, try and respond to that, think about that and how it impacts upon the module. So yes, it's definitely a two-way, many-way communication.
Brilliant. I'm going to end with talking about online learning, because I really want to see, Nick, what's on your laptop and what you're going to show students from that. So any questions about online learning and how you might deal with things like that, we're going to come to in just a minute. So do talk to HJ and Liz about that. But Nick, the Open STEM labs are just amazing. I mean, from working like a telescope in Tenerife to, you know, looking at a rock from outer space, there's so much stuff that students in STEM can do. What have you decided to show and tell today?
Okay, well, it's we're a bit limited in what we can show just this minute, but what I've got here is a pendulum, which is under my control, and I'm going to start something going now. I'm working a computer sideways on. It's now swinging. You see, I've set it swinging. I hope you can see that it's wiggling away there.
Perfect, yeah.
And it's done that because I just made it do it. It's on the other side of the campus right now.
Right.
When you're if you went to a campus university, you'd go to the labs and you'd find that the rooms were there laid out with pieces of kit on them. So how do we do that at a distance?
Yeah.
Well, we've got them laid out. We haven't had to leave room for the students, so we can do it in 3 dimensions. They're stacked up, a little bay here, and we can put a webcam on it, and we can give controls such as these knobs at the bottom of the screen. And we can have sound on there as well. And so that you get this real feeling of being immersed and next to the experiment. And that's what we're trying to do. Distance is not an object to getting in there, getting into the zone and feeling like you're doing the experiment, because you are doing the experiment. You say, I wonder what would happen if I were to move this knob, for example. And what happens is it starts to do whatever it was doing a little bit faster.
I'm assuming you can't break these either.
Well, we've been doing this for a couple of years now, and nobody's...
Don't break the table.
No, I mean, we've designed it knowing that the people are not there.
Yeah.
So if something's going to start burning, we have to anticipate that, because there's nobody there to smell it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we build it. It's fail-safe. Every hour it shuts down and resets each experiment, and then once a day the whole lab, in the engineering case here, the whole lab will shut down and we'll reset the connections and make sure that it's all okay. But in principle, 24/7, so it's not that you have to be there 2 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon. If you can't do it until 11:30 on a particular day, that can be met with
And
the way
this
we've
is
got
honestly amazing, because I mean we've sort of taken this further than just the Open University in terms of work that colleagues are doing in other parts of the world. But where equipment is at a premium and time is at a premium, it's phenomenal. It's not even just an alternative online version. This is a way that students can actually engage with real experiments and have real practical applications they can then go and write in their learning logs, etc., and do science hands-on.
It is, and here, I mean, we've got this thing just wiggling around, making a little sine wave
what is
going
it
up and down.
about, then?
Well, okay, I wanted to get to that.
It's impressive,
There's
but-
more to being in a lab than simply making things wiggle up and down. But it just shows that actually you can do anything you like with this. In the hands of a tutor, this could be a tutorial about sine waves. In the hands of a student, it could be an activity to make measurements on those sine waves, to measure the amplitude, to measure the period, to take a spectrum from them. And we build this narrative around in exactly the way that it would be in any other type of laboratory teaching. There's a set of tasks. We have to avoid what often happens, which is a recipe list. Do this, do that, write this down. Because we're in a what-if situation. We're not looking over students' shoulders here. Bit of a disadvantage from a teaching point of view, but from a learning point of view, wonderful. Because you don't have to worry about that.
Well, the
and
other great
nobody's
thing is-
watching you. You can't do it wrong. You can only learn.
With so many students as well, you could get great sets of data that you could then use to analyse.
Absolutely, yes. We could then build big data spaces. Now, interestingly, this one here, we must have just passed 5 minutes to the hour, because at 5 minutes to the hour, this session closes down.
Right.
And it's going to reset. So
Oh no,
the
that means
screen
we
has
don't have
gone
much
down.
time left.
But it just shows that it's real
Yeah.
and it's connected. And don't worry, I mean, some students might be thinking, well, there's 400 of us on this module. How are we going to get that pendulum?
Yeah.
We've got lots of them.
Yeah.
So we're not short of them, and we scale it proportionately.
Just make a cup of tea and go back to it later then, I suppose. Brilliant. HN, is everything okay at home?
Yeah, we're doing really well. We're getting lots of great advice and tips from Liz. This is
Yeah.
why it's great to have someone from student support team on the desk with us. And I just want to pick up on what Sarah said. She did MU123, which she said is highly recommended. I used to cry in school from maths lessons and have no idea how I passed my A level. But in MU123, I passed with 98%. She was amazed,
Wow.
which is fantastic.
Yeah, well
I think it shows when you get study that suits you and you can do it at a good pace and lots of support, you can do it, which is fantastic. But Liz has been giving us some great advice in terms of the student support team, and lots of resources available as well.
Yeah, so one of the ones that I flagged was maths choices, which I think is in the links. And I think one of the things is, where do I go in terms of the maths, you know, MU123 or MST124. I would say have a look at those resources. And if you're still not sure, we are more than happy to have a chat with you, talk it through, and just kind of look at where you're up to and, you know, how you feel about things going forward, really.
Brilliant. We've got about 3 minutes to ask Liz your live questions before you'll have to email or phone the student support team. So I'd like to end by talking about online learning, because this is something that students are going to get increasingly familiar with, develop some great new skills, but it can be unfamiliar, particularly with things like this. So I wanted to ask you advice about learning online.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I think you need to really forget about the medium as such. What we try to do is to put the materials on the medium that is most suitable for the student's learning. So in our qualifications, there is a mixture of online and printed material, and there's the online lab. I mean, you can't do that in a book.
No.
So we've got it on the online lab. In science, I think that it's much more online.
We have a higher proportion of online. Yeah. But I think Jan's point is right. Don't get caught up by the interface. Go through it.
Yeah.
It's just a window on the world. And if it's a window that you reach through going in the zone in a book or going into the zone on a screen, be drawn by the material that's there.
It's similar to referencing, I think. Sometimes we have these conceptual ideas, like I'm not going to like that or whatever, and we might not know what it is. But I mean, videos are really hard to get in books, you know. You can sort of do QR codes, but there's a limit, whereas online means you can just fluidly link from one thing to another without even thinking about it. And actually, we use computers and smartphones and stuff so much every day. We've probably got more skills than we think we do.
It's increasing the amount of the comfort that people have, but also I mean, I think a good tip is think about the space in which you're going to be doing it, and if you can get the conditions right, being comfortable sitting, having a screen, maybe having 2 screens. If you're able to get 2 screens, that won't necessarily, we don't insist upon it, but you can see there are advantages. Don't put yourself at a disadvantage. If possible, think ahead.
And also there are loads of great resources out there, you know, to kind of hone your online skills. So if you're feeling a bit unsure or you've never really done much online learning before, you know, again, you ask your tutor, signpost you to some good online resources in the induction part of the website when you're starting to find your way around. There'll be online resources there, so it's a great opportunity to really develop those skills.
Can I just add one more point as well, because a lot of our things, because it goes onto a screen, you can even get some of it on this kind of mobile device, but bear in mind that that's like looking through a keyhole as opposed to looking through a window.
Yeah.
So be prepared to go the extra mile if you can.
No, it's important. Ingrid and Ruth say they're really looking forward to the online experiments and doing some more of those as well, so that's great. How's everyone at home? We're nearly out of time.
We're doing well. I think Beverly had a great comment just to sum up how we're feeling today, didn't she?
I love STEM.
Just I love STEM.
I love STEM. We'll take that.
Accurate and brief. Well done.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely fantastic. But lots of people have been doing really well in the chat. We're very encouraged by all these sessions today.
Really positive.
We're looking forward to start our modules, which is amazing. And it's been great having Liz on the desk as well, helping us and answering all our questions. So I'm sure it's helped us as well alleviate some fears and know that we can just pick up the phone to get the help that we need.
Brilliant. Well, Aisha and Liz and everyone else who's been on our desk today, thank you very much. And thank you very much, Nick, Jan and Fee, for coming along and giving us some great advice. And thank you at home for watching also. We've had a really, really packed couple of hours. We're back this evening for some discussion with colleagues from the Faculty of Business and Law. Everyone's welcome, so if you've enjoyed this event and you'd like to keep chatting to other people, from 5 till 7 tonight, I think it is, we're going to be here. Then I'm going to go home. And yesterday we had a packed programme as well with loads of things that most common questions and things that OU students should know about. We talked about tutors and tutorials and the virtual learning environment and things like sketchnoting and all sorts of things, and you can watch that on Catch Up. You can also stay connected with us by subscribing to our newsletter, so just give us your email on the Student Hub Live website, and you can also find out more about the whole range of programmes that we've got coming up for you at the start of the academic year. We've got study skills workshops on things like time management, critical thinking, essay writing, understanding the assessment question, but spaces are limited at those, and they're in a different platform. They're in Adobe Connect. So if you'd like to come along, you're more than welcome, but you do need to get a ticket. So make sure that you book that for us now. And you can also see plenty more from the Faculty of STEM. We had a wonderful showcase. So if you aren't inspired yet, you might want to go and search our YouTube channel for the playlist there that we had. And there's plenty there to keep you amused and entertained until your module officially starts. But that's all from us now. And I hope you have a wonderful academic year. I hope you can join us at another event. And thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of the day.